Welcome to the Creepin' It Real show, your one-stop shop for weird news, spooky, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow us on Twitter at creepin_it and like us on Facebook at The Creepin' It Real Show. Do you have a paranormal story you'd like to share with us? You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com.
Hello and welcome to Creepin' It Real. This is one of your hosts, Kristi, and I am accompanied this wonderful Friday evening by Moni, who is in California. How are you doing, Moni?
I'm good. I'm pre-gaming with a couple drinks, getting ready to go out tonight.
Woot, woot. Me too. Yardley, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm actually excited to talk about this movie. I was pleasantly surprised.
Awesome. Well, it's kind of crazy. I was thinking about this because I had some pretty good news today, career-wise, and I was thinking how it seems to be like since we started this podcast, our personal careers have done pretty good turns for the best. So maybe we're good mojo on each other. I don't know, but I'll take it. And
keep it up.
Exactly. And I'm on my second glass of wine, but I'm going to keep it calm and not get too ignorantly stupid when I'm talking about this. The good part is I'm using the good wine and the good wine glasses. And what I've learned tonight, because I haven't used the good wine glasses in like 10 years, is they're smaller, so they don't hold as much wine as my cheapy like wine glasses. So we're good. We're good.
It's actually a sad story. Less wine is less fun.
No, you guys have heard me trying to podcast with lots of wine. It is not pretty.
That's true.
So let me just do my sips out of my fancy glass and not get too belligerent and clueless as far as repeating my words and not making any sense. That's just silly. So anyway, I think we're just going to jump right into the movie review. But before we actually talk about the movie, I want to talk about something with you guys, and I want to hear your opinion on this because this, I think, we're going to be talking about a movie that we all heard off of hype, and I think at times hype for a movie can be kind of a double-edged sword because, especially with horror, because drama movies are drama. You know, action movies, you've got action. There's no debating that. But with horror, everybody finds scary different. And so when a movie gets really built up, I kind of start to feel sorry for it because you're going to have those people that are go in with huge expectations and then are like, what? This ain't scary, or, you know, and really downplay it, and not because they were kind of walking into it with really high expectations where, like, when you get those first reviews coming in, those are the people that kind of walked into it unannounced, did not know what was going on. Like, Moni, what do you think about that? Do you feel like that's an issue, or do you think that's just, you're either going to like it or you're not, regardless of the expectation?
No, I think that is true. And I think you guys heard the genuine excitement in me, anyone who listened to last week's podcast, because, you know, the film, by the way, that we're talking about is Veronica on Netflix now. And that's the wine not talking.
No, exactly. You're supposed to read my mind. What? Oh, okay.
What movie are we talking about?
Exactly.
And yeah, it had 100% last week on Rotten Tomatoes when it first dropped on Netflix. And I did want to ask you, Kristi, since you're in PR, is that something that can be corrupted? Could they have paid people to have given good reviews or only taken the good reviews for the beginning, for the first week, just to kind of build that anticipation?
There are movies that I've seen that, yes, it's clearly hype where they've got people posting. I didn't get that impression from this movie as far as the reviews when I read them, and you can spot a fake review from a mile away for me, just because I literally have spent 2 years doing fake reviews as part of my job, not for movies, but for products. So I kind of know how to spot a fake review. And when I read the reviews on here, I really felt like, especially because, you know, they were tweets, and when you look at the tweets, these weren't people that, you know, they were just normal people. And so once you kind of get a good following and understanding, I didn't see it that way at all with this movie. And I genuinely think, because once I saw that and I went in to watch it, I knew to turn off, like take off my expectation hat, because what I'm going to watch isn't going to be as scary as what I'm reading, but it still should be pretty good. Like, that was kind of where I was. I don't want to have a high expectation when I watch a movie, because I'm always going to be disappointed. Nothing's going to live up to my imagination, because I have a fucked up imagination. So, Yardley,
Yeah,
I mean, what do you feel about that?
Well, I really didn't have any, expectations going in, because I really only got put onto the movie when we were talking about it last week. But when you're talking about the Rotten Tomato, which is an aggregate score of different
Right.
reviewers, when it was 100%, it was only 12 reviews.
Right.
And now, it's sitting at 88%, and it's got a total of 16 reviews. But just for me, not knowing about any hype or having any expectations, I actually went into it thinking that it was going to be garbage, and I enjoyed it way more than I thought that I would,
Right.
based off of my, unwarranted, kind of hating on the movie before I watched it. So,
Yeah.
I'll have to defer to y'all with, the controversy on, what people are talking about, the hype. I just didn't really know that there was a big buzz for this movie.
There really wasn't. I mean, there was for, Twitter. There's a lot of people that were totally, a lot of parts freaked them out. They turned it off. It seemed like that was kind of a genuine thing for them. And I can see why, because some people, this topic is scary. It's very scary. And if this is something that really scares you, that could be scary when you're watching it. So I got it. But then you've got everybody else who's like, oh, they're going to shit on it because somebody said it's so scary they had to turn it off. Once those words were spoken, it's challenge accepted, and that's what you're going to get with a lot of people, where that's kind of unfair to the movie, I always feel like. And that's not just this movie, that's across the board. I mean, I've seen this happen so many times where you have a movie that comes out, and of course, it's not going to live up to the hype. It's not possible. So I guess I think and this isn't just about this movie. It was just kind of an overall discussion about movies where poor movie, gets released. They're just trying to do their thing. And I don't really get the impression that this movie was especially since it was a movie not even in the States, that they're trying to create something so fantastical that people can't watch it. And I'm sure they're their hopes, but then you've got this, that's ridiculous. And then you've got this other wave against you where people are going way into it, expecting way too much. So anyway, I kind of felt like that was the poor backlash at the beginning of this movie when it first came out, and you hear all these reports. You hope that doesn't happen, but it seems like for some people, if it's not scary to you, it's not scary to you, but it is for some. And then you've got people then getting on there and leaving negative reviews because it wasn't scary to them, and they heard people couldn't watch it, so they're basing it on that instead of their own experience. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of discuss that to see what your thoughts might be, because I find that can be kind of tragic for movies at times.
For sure.
So anyway, we're going to discuss, like Moni said, Veronica. Netflix dropped it last week?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, week and a half ago. And this is how we heard about it. We all saw the hype on Twitter about people watching it and turning it off, or it being scary. It scared the crap out of them. And I immediately watched it. And before we get into the review, I'll just say, besides this being scary, which I did think it was scary, and of course, the reasons why I think it's scary is because I kind of dealt with that at the same age as her by witnessing the exorcism that I did at church at a young age, and it really just kind of hit home for me. The girl that I saw who had the exorcism had, later said she was playing with an Ouija board. And so this really kind of touched some triggering things for me, and I really could kind of relate in some strange way. And so it really hit home for me. And honestly, for a horror movie, because this is so lacking in horror movies right now, because I just feel like they're just churning them out, it was a good movie. It just was a good movie to me. Regardless of if it was scary, I thought it was strong. They had great character development. You really felt for all the kids and their situation, and it's just hard to find these days, especially in horror. So I have to come out and say that before we even talk about the movie, that I really felt like the movie was just a good movie in general. And so the director is Paco Plaza, who is also the director of Rec, which is another fantastic Spanish found footage film. Like Moni said, I almost said Militant Marker, or Yardley said, it's got 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb is giving it a 6.6 out of 10. It starts out with a manic phone call with a girl screaming, "He's here, he's in the house," followed by police rushing to the home and discovering something horrifying. But of course, they don't show what it is that they see. In my imagination, right then, it's just like running wild. And so it then rewinds 76 hours earlier, and you kind of get to know who the characters are for the movie. Yardley, at this point, it's very early in the movie, and you're kind of getting to know the kids. What was your thoughts about their family dynamic, and just watching basically them being responsible for themselves, and seeing, Veronica, the main character's role is basically like a mother.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Veronica definitely deserves a medal because,
Hell yeah.
she was definitely doing a great job of taking care of her kids. I thought that it kind of, it set the tone because you really could see that the relationship that she had, with her siblings, was good. I think later on in the movie, it's probably, I kind of felt like maybe, her mom was a little, off-putting, but by the end of it, when we see what happens, I'm totally, feeling what the mother was going through. But I thought the family dynamic was cool. I think that it's sad that she didn't have an opportunity to just be a kid without having to take care of her brothers and sisters. But I think from the beginning of the movie, it kind of sucks you in to kind of really being with this character for the rest of the flick.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you've got the dad who's passed. The mom, like you said, works at a bar, sleeps during the day. Moni, as a mother and somebody who has kids, I really struggled relating with this mother. I guess, you do what you got to do, but I'd probably sleep 2 hours a day before I would hoist that much responsibility on my kids. What do you think?
Yeah, the same, because I was struggling with that too, because clearly money needed to be made for that family. And I don't know how old the girl was supposed to be, like 15?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just curious how old in Spain you have to be to get a job. I'd rather have my kid have a part-time job than me being an absentee parent completely, especially after they lost their dad. And yeah, as we saw Veronica telling her mom to rest more and stuff like that. Yeah, it was a bit much. And, as we go into the film, what bothered me even more was even when she was there, she was absent, so to speak. It was like, yeah, her daughter would try to come to her with concerns. And honestly, even if your daughter's batshit crazy and you know that she's not seeing these things, it's like, this is the last person that's watching the rest of your kids. And these are the things you guys have all been through. And this is the responsibility you're putting on her. Maybe you stop a minute and slow down a little so that you make sure you at least let her think you're listening to her so that she can continue carrying the burden that you've put upon her. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. And I think as privileged as we all are, I think this happens a lot more than we probably realize. Kids being given the burden of dealing with the family. I mean, shoot, look at the frickin' 19 or billion kids and still counting household. I mean, those kids all take care of each other, which it's very much a given. They announce that. Like, the olders take care of the youngers because there's so many of the damn kids. So, of course, there's only 4 of these, but still, I think this happens quite a bit.
I do cut her a little bit of slack because probably one of the reasons why she's having to work all the time and Veronica's having to take care of the kids is the fact that the dad was dead.
Exactly.
So the situation was totally, I think that things were different, and I saw that by the way that Veronica would act about her mom not being home. But then there's also some naivete of being a kid, because that shows that she didn't really fully understand that her mom probably didn't want to be in the position that she's in. But
of
course.
Yes.
And I kind of also got the impression that before their dad passed, I mean, I think their life was a lot different. And so they're all just trying to kind of get through and get by the best they could. And I mean, when you can get to those opinions so early on, I think that really kind of gives you an idea. It was a strong build up for the characters and their past. So I thought they did really well with that. After you kind of get the impression and understanding that Veronica is basically the mom of the kids, which is twin girls and then a little boy, the little boy was freaking adorable. Veronica and her 2 friends sneak off while they're at school. They go to the basement during a full eclipse, which this takes place, I think, in 1991, and tries to communicate with her dad via a Ouija board. So during that time, they're trying to communicate, and of course they get something. Of course, was not her dad. And they see Veronica react in a very scary, strange way. And for me, I read some reviews. I think it was Variety magazine and a couple of other ones saying, well, it never explained why Veronica was the one that got targeted by the demon or whatever. But hello, how could she not be targeted? She was the weakest link of that group, She's going through a lot of shit. She's exhausted. She's got a lot going on. Of course she'd be the weakest link. How could you even ask that question? I mean, do you agree, Moni, or do you think that was kind of a weak part?
And she's the one who's calling for something.
Yeah.
So a demon would definitely want to prey on someone who is missing something so much that they're using a Ouija board on an eclipse day to try to call it forth and bring it back,
Agreed.
I thought that was a pretty weak opinion about the movie. I'm like, out of all the things in the movie, that's your complaint? Like, of course she's the one that's targeted. Duh. I mean, there's so many factors in that. So my question is to you, Yardley, have you ever used an Ouija board?
You know what? One time, me and some friends, somebody had one, but it was kind of the typical thing. Like, every other person thinks that the other person is like moving it themselves. So nobody really took it seriously. And it probably was like 2 or 3 minutes of just us talking trash to each other. Yeah. But it was definitely, the camps I rolled in, cats wasn't really messing with the Ouija board. So obviously I was on the other side of town.
Right. What about you, Moni?
Actually, I have a funny story about that because I bought one, I bought one when I was a teenager, which was kind of a lot of money back then. I mean, it was like $20-$25.
Mm-hmm.
And I used it with some friends when my parents were not home once. And same kind of thing as Yardley, a couple minutes of like yes, no, and then it sort of stopped. And we're a little freaked out, but we didn't think it was really anything. And then I was trying to use it by myself one night, and I dozed off on top of it. I don't know. Maybe I have narcolepsy, by the way. All my stories, I feel like, on this podcast end with, and then I fell asleep. But I dozed off, like, with weird low lighting in my bedroom, like, with my head on top of the Ouija board, which sounds like a terrible decision as an adult, by the way. And I woke up, and it was gone. And I looked everywhere for it. Yes, it was gone. Scared the shit out of me. I looked everywhere for it. And I got the sneaking suspicion that my parents had something to do with it being gone, but I didn't dare ask because my dad is still a devout Catholic, and every once in a while made stuff like that disappear and played it real close to the chest. You would never hear about it, and if you didn't say anything, because you'd get in trouble if you said something. So to this day, I'm about 99% certain. Well, because the only other explanation is a demon came and threw a Ouija board away. That doesn't even make sense. But
Well,
yeah,
if
the
you
thing
didn't
disappeared.
experience any activity, I would say it wasn't a demon.
Right. So I moved out of that house,
Interesting.
and of course, at some point, and I never saw that thing. And I really want to do something with one again, and my husband's
You're
super not all
crazy.
about it.
Hell
Oh,
no,
but Christy and
girl,
I have a
no.
yard trip coming up. I think a road trip coming up. I think we need to
Yes.
do.
Hell no, girl, no. That ain't gonna happen for me.
Okay, we'll
Mm-mm.
do it when you're out of the
Should
room.
we
We'll be
do
like,
it
go
in?
get us some
Oh,
ice.
okay, now hold on. If we could do the Ouija board while we're visiting Winchester Mansion, I
Oh my
am
God.
down. I am down.
That's fucking
I will
amazing.
commit to that for sure.
All
So,
right, creatures, that's what it is.
if we
Ouija
can get her
board
done,
at
we will.
Winchester House this fall.
I'm gonna be
It's on.
wearing all my crystals. You guys are gonna think I'm like the biggest Stevie Nicks wannabe ever, but I will do it.
First time I
will
met
do
you
it.
in person, I'm gonna be like, she's batshit fucking
I know.
crazy.
That's true. When we play with an Ouija board, that's the circumstances. So, well, good to know. All right, so I have two. I was very young. I didn't know what the hell it was. Never seen one before, and it was the same thing as you, Yardley. We were all accusing each other of moving it, and then we just did not, and then we kind of walked away, and it was done, and we were silly. So, that was the last time I used one, and it was pre the girl who got the exorcism, and then after that happened, of course, I never touched one again. I think anybody who witnesses something like that, you're like, yeah, I'm good. But all right, so they're in this basement. They're trying to contact Veronica's dad via Ouija board during an eclipse, which I would probably assume that during an eclipse, shit's pretty open, like lined up. I mean, I don't know. I would think that any mystic would say that that's probably a really good time to connect with the dead. So, crazy shit happens. Yardley, you want to say what happened to Veronica while playing with the Ouija board?
I couldn't hear anything
We
you
didn't
just
catch
said.
anything
Are
you
you
just said.
serious? Motherfucker.
We are serious.
God damn it. And see, it shows everything fine on this end. Can you hear
Well,
me
what'd
now?
you just say? Well, just tell me what you just said, and
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'll just prepare for you.
Yardley, I wanted to ask you to say what happened while Veronica was playing with the Ouija board, because I don't want to talk this whole time. I would like to share the activity of the movie. So, Yardley, what happened when Veronica and these two chicks started playing with the Ouija board?
Well, the typical thing, as we mentioned before, people are accusing each other, and then I think at some point the candles fall over, and then she cuts her hand on the glass that they were using with the Ouija board, and then the blood from her finger spattered out, and I think it started a little fire or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I think the actress who played Veronica, she really sold me throughout the movie of being freaked out about stuff. You know what I'm saying? So at least for me, I thought that scene was kind of cool. It didn't take any special effects or anything like that. It's just totally basic stuff. But I think the reactions was something that I thought was, typical. But I thought it was kind of cool, and I thought that the woman who played Veronica pulled it off well.
I thought that, the light, all the candles burn out and it's dark, and then her friend has the flashlight, and she, sees her friend, the two girls see each other, and then they're looking for Veronica and they can't find her. And she's just still there, like, hanging strong with her finger out, like she was just still sitting there with the board and everything, even though it wasn't there. I thought that was pretty crazy.
Confirm something for me, Kristi. Now, is this just the Jack talking, or am I talking about
Probably.
when it was burning at the end of the movie? Didn't it happen when she cut her hand on the glass? It did burn a hole in the Ouija board, or did the Ouija board split apart or something?
It burnt. No, it caught on fire. Right,
Okay,
Moni?
yeah.
I mean, I watched it last week, and I've slept since then, so I have to kind of. So it did catch on fire, and then somebody broke it in half. Right?
Okay. All right, because
Because I know it was in two pieces. Yeah. So that happened. All right, good. I'm glad we're all of agreement that happened. Yeah. So she's sitting there with a broken glass, blood the thing caught on fire and she's still just frozen in that one kind of spot. And then all of a sudden you see her freak out, and that's the cover of the movie, the poster, where she leans back and starts doing her crazy yell with her mouth like twice as big as it's humanly possible.
And it's so realistic. I mean, her braces and everything. Yes. She's so like such a young girl. It's so sad.
Yeah, it was. That was really fucking creepy to me. I don't know how somebody could look at that and go, gosh, that didn't scare me. I mean, that was pretty disturbing to me. I don't know. But so after all this happens, she tries to kind of, go along like nothing ever happened. Oh no, wait. They called, she go to the nurse or something happened. I can't even remember. Please, somebody remind me. So after all of that, she goes to the nurse and they like put a Band-Aid on her finger, and
she did?
She like blacked out, and they told her that it was because she was now malnourished or something. I can't remember, stressed.
You say so. Sure, that.
She gets out of school and her, meets with her sisters, and they're like, "What happened to your finger?" And she's like, "I had a boo-boo." And she's like, "Don't tell Mom about the boo-boo." I guess they don't want to worry her. And they go on with their life. Here's the thing that I like about this movie. First of all of this happens within like 15 minutes. We're not sitting there starting a movie and it's just so slow, like, ugh. And then after this happens, she goes home and the activity immediately starts. She took the Ouija board with her, even though it was in 2 pieces, takes it home, tries to hide it. It doesn't want to be hidden. It keeps falling and like coming out from wherever she tries to hide it. And then her and the kids make dinner and something strange happens. Moni, what happened at dinner?
She starts like rocking back and forth, and like all her food, like kind of like she's having a seizure or something.
Yeah.
And which I just watched someone do the other day, so no thank you.
No shit.
And so it kind of freaked me out a little bit, but
is he possessed?
And the spaghetti, what's that?
Is he possessed?
No, he has them a lot at the library.
I'm
Good
kidding.
times, but
no, I'm joking. Sorry. Bad joke.
All this. Oh, that's okay. You're cutting in and out.
God
so
dang it.
Yeah, can't hear what you're saying very much. So all the sauce is coming out of her face like blood.
Yeah.
So that looks pretty cool. And the kids, of course, are all sitting there and they're like, "Well, what's happening to Veronica?" And that's like a what the fuck moment for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was that was pretty gross. Like they were eating meatballs or something. Yeah. Was not pretty. Yeah. And then after this, so Veronica's private life starts to kind of diminish. You see her friends disconnect from her. They're kind of doing their own thing. Her best friend and this other girl start doing a lot more together without her. And because they don't have the adult responsibilities and the life that she has. And you can see Veronica get frustrated and sad at losing, her friend. And but they're also kind of scared of her. You can tell. They're a little wary of her from the basement situation. So I think the good part about this from this point is up until this point, I always kind of give myself like a mental check. Like, is this everything that I would do if this was me in a situation? Because nothing makes me crazier than when I watch a horror movie and I'm like, really? You didn't think anything weird was going on? Really? Like, you didn't suspect nothing? Like, how is that possible? And to this point, I'm like, this is a realistic type situation for me. Like, very realistic to me. Yardley, I mean, did you feel that way or no?
Here's the thing. A lot of times when you're watching horror movies and when people write them, sometimes the moments that make you say, would a person really do that? That's part of the gag.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like a gag, when they do that. But
damn it.
Did y'all hear me?
Nope.
Hello?
No,
But
he's gone.
I can hear you now.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker. This has got to be
Wow,
a
this is
Skype thing then, because this has got to be Skype. Because
Can you
if it
call
was,
us right back? Can we do that?
yeah,
Or no? Or
yeah,
will it
no,
mess it up? If you...
I'll call you right back.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Something's going on with Skype, because it's happening to them too. Hello.
Dear Yardley, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, we can hear you.
Awesome.
Everything so far so good, yeah.
Okay, I've kind of lost track of what were we talking about just a second ago.
We were talking about if you felt like up to this point the movie was a realistic
depiction of what a person
like
would
would
do.
you have reacted that way based on your feelings in real life? Like, would you have reacted that way or not? Because
what
I
would
have a
I have
hard time
reacted
with
to
that
my
sometimes.
friend?
Just in general, like she's starting to act kind of weird. Things are starting to happen to her, and
yeah.
she's starting to feel like maybe the Ouija board thing came around, didn't end there. And she's doing her library things, and her friends are, distancing themselves. Like, I feel like that was a realistic expectation of something if that had really happened.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Yeah, it's totally believable on that front, because you got to think all the responsibilities that are heaped on her, and then all this crazy stuff is happening. Then you're feeling isolated from anything socially. So yeah, I could definitely buy that, especially for what if she like 13 or 14 years old?
Yeah, I think 14 or 15, but yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what when I think. It mentally, when I start watching a horror movie, that's one of the things. Like when I start getting into it, like right now.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you cover for me for like 2 seconds? I gotta run downstairs.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like just keep talking without me. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. I think go ahead.
You know what, Kristi?
Mm-hmm.
Cut all. Could you cut
cut
that last segment and then let me just do it over, because in my head. I'm piecing it together between the breaks and me asking you stuff. It's just,
yes,
I know
of course.
Like,
yeah, let's do it. Start
right.
talking now. Get whatever you want out. That's great. Perfect.
All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah. I definitely think that it was believable that Veronica would feel a certain type of way, considering all the things that she was going through, her responsibilities, and being isolated from her friends. I think that would probably be the way that anyone who was a 14 or 15-year-old would act if they were in the same situation.
I agree. I feel like that's the one thing when you're watching a movie that's the most frustrating, especially horror, because I don't think they always depict how people would really react in situations. Yeah. And that really hit me when I was watching this movie. Is there was no, I suspect something else or something weird's going on. What could it possibly be? I mean, there was a clear cut, this is happening, and she knew what was happening, and I like that. There's no bullshit. There's no guessing game in the movie when everybody else knows that what's going on, and in real life, you know that you would know that was going on. So that's what I really liked about this movie. Finally, there's no bullshit. Like, oh, people are really getting a clue very early on in the movie of what's happening. Thank God, finally. And I really liked that. So that, when I look at horror, that's kind of a lot of what I look at is this a way I'd react if this was going on in my life? And yeah, up to this point, I can say that is how I would react. And I think any 15-year-old would react. So, and bless her heart, reacting with nobody to really lean on. Her friends are dumping her. Her mom's not home. She's got to take care of these kids. That's it. So I was really pulled in by now at this point in the movie. So, all right, moving on. By the way, this is another reality check. Veronica is loosely based on a real teen who died an unexplained death after using an Ouija board to contact a friend's dead boyfriend. Of course, that's not how the movie was made, But it's interesting that it was actually based on a true story in a loose way. So I just wanted to throw that out there right now as we kind of dissect the rest of the movie, that this movie was based on a police report. And I guess made by a person of a Veronica type who ended up using an Ouija board to try to help a friend and then died. So, interesting. Moni's
Yeah,
going to...
I actually watched something about that.
Yeah, I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Estefania Gutierrez Lazaro was the young girl, and she actually, that Veronica was based off of, she did play with a Ouija board in 1990 at school, and as Kristi mentioned, she was trying to contact one of her friends' boyfriends who had just passed in a motorcycle accident, and they were interrupted actually by a teacher who then, I think the Ouija board became broken as a result of that altercation, so they did not say goodbye. Now, the group says that they saw strange smoke going up into her mouth and nose. Some reports say that possibly broken glass from the planchette or something may have gotten into her lungs. I don't know. That would have had to have been awfully powdered, and then how did it get that kind of... Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. There is no real good explanation for her cause of death, and she didn't die for another year or so after this encounter, but of course had a lot of strange things happen to her, and was found dead in her bedroom. She was very young, and she was taken to a bunch of doctors. Nothing was ever physically found wrong with her, but it actually wasn't until about a year after the fact that the police were brought in by the family, because there were still so many things related to possibly paranormal things happening in the apartment, including doors slamming, appliances going on and off. And that's where the police report that this film is based loosely off of actually comes out of, is the things that the police actually witnessed coming into the home of this family. So it's all shrouded in a lot of mystery, but it's never been resolved, and you can actually go to the internet and find reports find the actual police report written. I mean, if you read in Spanish, I'm sure there's translations available though. So at any rate, it's just a really interesting story, however much is true and however much just, this young girl dying of such strange occurrences surrounding her. So
awesome. Yep, that's true. I didn't go as far down the rabbit hole as you did, Moni, but I did, click on a couple of links to, when I was watching the movie, and did see that it was based on a true story. So I thought that was really interesting. But, so back to our review. There's several, we could dissect every single part of this, but I just kind of want to cut through a few things. After many strange occurrences, so a demon chokes her sister, and Flash is her actually choking her sister. Mattresses start getting stained with like mold or some crazy shit.
I thought it was supposed to be char, like burning char. Maybe
I don't know what
that's
was.
what it was. It was burned.
Burned. Okay, so mattress is getting burned from underneath.
Yeah,
and that's true, because then the neighbor underneath, Josefina or whatever, they were kind of afraid of her. I thought that was kind of funny.
She was a bitch.
Yeah, she was an asshole. Came up and said that there was some kind of stain coming through the ceiling, and they were seeing a demon in the windows through the hallway, because the way the apartment was set up was, if you're in the living room, you can see like a hallway and the bedrooms and stuff. A lot of terrifying dreams that end up affecting her in real life, where she's being grabbed or hit or assaulted, and then she's got bites and bruises on her in real life. Then she gets help from a blind nun from her school, who's really fucking creepy looking, but she ends up kind of being cool. She's like smoking and hanging out in the basement, and kind of directs her in the right direction. She doesn't have all her senses, and then it's revealed that she stabbed her own eyes out because of what she could see. But then she realized after sight, she can still see. So in other ways. So she kind of helps Vero understand that she didn't say goodbye, and that she needs to protect her family, and a lot of other things that I'm probably skipping over. I apologize. But basically, Vero comes to the assumption that she needs the original trio to help recreate the seance to fix this. And
Yes.
of course, during this time, her friends are having a party and refuse to help. So during this, she knocks on their door and starts losing her shit at this party, begging them to help. Now, Yardley, if you were her friends and you saw this girl come to your house and was acting this way, and she's one of your friends, what would be your response?
I mean, it would be hard. I totally wouldn't have believed the lie that she told that I think she was asking, did you bite yourself or something? Her
Yes,
friend had
yeah.
asked her or something.
Yep.
Yeah, I would have freaked out too because she just came in really incoherent. And then she's screaming. She ends up slapping her friend's boyfriend.
Yeah.
All the ingredients to get your ass kicked out of a party. You know what I mean? She had all the ingredients. So
Yes.
I don't blame the friend, but at the same time, I don't even want to spoil, the end. But once you know what you know, you realize, why she was acting like that. But
Yeah, she's
yeah,
panicked. Yeah. But you feel
yeah.
for both sides. I mean, I did too. It's like, I get it. I mean, Moni, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, they're 15 or whatever. Like I feel like it's normal for them to grow apart even minus a demon between them. And then add in she was acting like a bitch. You're not a rock star. You don't get to come in here and start slapping people and screaming. I don't think so. That's not how you crash a party. You gotta be cool when you crash a party. So yeah, I would have kicked her ass out too.
So, because she wasn't dressed like Axl Rose, it's
That's right.
1991, by the way.
Yeah, I was
So,
gonna
yes.
circa 1991, not
Yeah.
now.
She wasn't going to get no response. But here's the interesting part of that is her friend tells her that during the original seance in the basement at the school when they were trying to contact her dad, and it's clear that something's going on with they call her Vero. She whispered at that time during the original seance to her friend that Vero herself was going to die on that day. So the day that
Yes.
she's begging her friends for help, originally, what is that, 76 hours before, she had
Yeah.
said, I'm going to die on that day.
Yeah.
So I kind of would feel like if somebody busts in my place begging for help after that, I probably would try to help them. I don't know. I mean,
Call
I'd
the
be a little
cops
freaked
or
out.
get a
but
parent or your own parent or
yeah,
do
I mean,
something.
these
Yeah.
kids are like, where's their parental units? Like, they're all just, oh, somebody got a party. One's working at a bar. I'm like, damn, these poor kids are on their own. So Vero is defeated and goes back to her place without the help of her friends. So guess what she decides to do? Yardley, what does she do? She recruits somebody. Who's she recruit?
I'm sorry.
She recruited her
I'm
twin
sorry.
sisters.
Go
Is
ahead.
it cutting out?
It's a disaster right now. Just give me like 5 seconds.
Oh, no worries.
So
No worries.
all of this
Crash
just
fire.
yeah, it's like stuff is falling over and just
Uh-oh.
okay. All right, let me pick my stuff up here. Okay. All right. Repeat that again, Kristi, and we
So
can
Vero, with being denied help from her friends, decides to go back to her home and do shit her own way. And what did she end up doing, Yardley? Do you remember? Is Yardley there?
Uh-oh.
hello?
Are you
Hello?
there? God dang it. What is going on? Are you there,
Hello?
Yardley?
The demons, man.
It's the demons not wanting us to talk about the demons.
The fuck? Oh no.
Yardley?
Hello.
Yes,
Hey.
you're here now. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. This is kind of crazy. I don't know if
Conjure the
this
spirit of Yardley.
is this well, no, I'm wondering because like I'm hearing some in and out stuff, but I know that before when you were going in and out, Moni was hearing it along with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's been fine right now for me.
I think it's Mercury retrograde. I'm sorry. Mercury retrograde's happening right now, and it affects communication. And here we are. Fucked
That has
up.
to
See,
affect
this
this
happens.
week.
I'm telling you. This is
Okay,
the shit
so-
that happens. So Vero Didn't get
All
help
right.
from her friends. So what'd she do?
Well, now I have to like move the show notes back because it flipped up.
So
I'm sorry,
she.
y'all.
No,
Everything.
that's okay. Don't worry about it. Hey, some of
Okay,
this is funny.
Vero, Rico's sister.
Here, I
Oh,
highlighted
okay,
it.
okay. Run it back.
So Vero goes to the party. She's begging for help. She gets kicked out. Everybody thinks she's crazy. So she decides to take matters in her own hands. She goes back home and she's got to recreate the seance somehow. So she ends up doing something else, Yardley. What does she end up doing?
Yeah, so one of the things that did kind of trip me out is the fact that she's going to recruit her brothers and sisters, and
Yeah.
he's like writing protection symbols on the wall. Now, weren't those protection symbols? They were like Viking or something, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. They were like Viking.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I'm just out of curiosity. Do either of you know the origins of the Ouija board? Because now that my memory serves me correctly, when I was talking about did it burn something up when they were doing it, it was the book that I think came with the Ouija board that got burned up. So I was wondering, was it something that I missed? Why did she pick the Viking symbols to be the things to protect from that? Is that Norwegian in origin?
Well, yeah, she went to the library, I think out of desperation, and that was literally all she could find was a bunch of magazines, and starts kind of just out of desperation scrolling through all these magazines trying to find something, and found it just happened to be Norwegian protection symbols. And then that was on the first page. And then we find out later, if you turn the page, there's still symbols, but they're actually conjuring symbols. So she gives the magazine to her little brother, who, by the way, I freaking love Antonito. He was the cutest little dude ever. I loved him so much. I just wanted to just pick him up and just cuddle him. He was the most adorable thing. And so she gives him the magazine for the protection symbols and says, draw these on the wall, like while she's running around trying to make a seance place in her house. And so he starts drawing protection symbols, but then turns the page to the conjuring symbols and is like, oh, this is a cool one. And he draws a big one on the wall. Now, I would think that no matter what, if those are real legit symbols, that's probably a contradiction.
His drawing was
that's why
pretty
they
good.
showed it to us. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
thought that he did a good job.
Yeah.
so of course she
Little
pulls
artist.
yes, she pulls her sisters and her twin sisters to do the seance to fill in for her friends, and made her brother write the symbols on the wall, and he didn't write all the right ones. So of course, once the seance begins, all hell breaks loose. The main demon shows up again. She takes the kids out of the house after the call of 911, which is what started the whole movie. Like we said, it starts with a 911 call. They make it downstairs, but she realizes all of a sudden she doesn't really have her brother. Or did he disappear, or was he never there to begin with? Yardley, what are your thoughts about that? Uh-oh. I'm telling you. All right, I'm skipping to Moni. Moni, what are your thoughts about that?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Oh my God, we have like ADD this show. Okay, so they make it.
Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, was it her dad? You said, or is it the demon?
No, so they make it downstairs.
You're like quizzing us today.
Because I'm like, if this is gonna be interesting to see how you edit this, because I know it's a
I
total
don't know how
shit.
I'm going to. So they make it
Just believe it.
downstairs.
It should just be like a behind the scenes of Creeping It Real.
Seriously.
Jesus.
I'm
They
gonna move
make
the
it-
jacket
all right.
away.
Yardley, I'm gonna ask you one more time, and then Madeline.
What-
Madeline,
Nope.
kill me now.
Not that either.
Okay, you're gonna ask me one more time about the
Moni.
little boy drawing, or what is the?
No. They make it down the stairs after all hell breaks loose in the apartment, and she's holding her brother and the twins. But when they get downstairs, they get to the door. The twins go outside,
Oh,
And
yeah.
she looks in the reflection and she's not holding anything. The little
Antonito's
boy,
not there.
Antonito's gone.
Yeah,
Did
but
he-
when she runs up and Antonito is gone and she's looking out and the other two and the other two are outside. The
Yeah.
other it was two kids on the outside, right?
Yes, the twins.
Like math. If two kids
So-
are on the outside and one kid is in her arms but
Oh
isn't,
my God. We cannot
Well,
all drink at the same time. This
Yeah,
is-
yeah, we totally can't.
who has to drive this
But my
ship? Wait,
question, my
Right.
question is, did he disappear while he was in her arms, or was he never there to begin with, Yardley? That's
He
the
was
question.
never there to begin with.
I agree.
I know.
agree.
When we find out, what happens later on, about everything that was going on, you just realize that those two little girls were outside thinking that their sister was crazy,
Yeah.
rolling them. So, yeah.
So she runs back into the apartment to find Antonito. And the demon has Antonito.
Of
So
course.
Moni, at this point, I think realization hits her, right?
Yes.
She starts to remember things from the last 76 hours. And do you think she realized she's the demon, or do you think what do you think she's thinking at this point?
Well, we see her go down a path that leads her to believe she's been the demon the whole time. They show now the backstory of how she feasibly could have done all of these things herself, including and not limited to strangling, choking her siblings.
Yes.
So,
Lots
yeah.
of things. And then she's looking in the mirror, I think, at the time, and the mirror is not looking back at her. It's like actually looking at her in a weird way. So I think she kind of understands. And she's also hearing the blind nun tell her she needs to protect her siblings.
Right.
And I think for her, that means that she needs to kill herself. So she tries to kill herself, but the demon does not want her to kill herself. And he starts to do something. I don't know. He's like sticking his hand in her mouth again, and she's being lifted up. And here we have the police finally show up, and we now see what they see, which is Vero lifted in the air, being kind of suspended, and looks like being possessed in some crazy way, yelling or screaming, bent backwards, like this crazy ass yoga pose I've ever seen. And then she falls to the ground. The paramedics put her in a stretcher. They take her to the hospital. And spoiler alert, because now we're following the detective of police. He gets the report that she dies.
Right.
And it ends with the detective sitting down and actually trying to make a report of what he saw. And how the fuck do you put that in a police report? So with that, that's the end of the movie. And I would like to hear Yardley. Are you there, Yardley?
You're gonna have to cut this part out. Like the whole time that you were talking, all I was thinking about was how the fuck is she gonna cut this up to make it sound good? You might have to do a
I ain't
disclaimer.
cutting shit. This
like
is going
at
to
the
be
beginning.
hysterical. No,
Because
this is
think
gonna be
about it.
funny.
We didn't even give the summary, and Moni had brought up the she
Name
gave
of
us
the
a synopsis or something. It was like 42 minutes into the show, which should have been at the beginning of the show.
I was like, this movie is called Veronica.
I was like, so you're gonna have to cut that out. It's just, I'm sorry. It's just like that's my podcast in mind. I'm like, how the fuck is she gonna fix all of this shit? Because we all sound a hot mess.
That's the fun part, is we don't have to fix all of it. I think the funny part is that we sound like a hot mess. Sometimes you got to keep some of that crazy shit in there. So the great part is all in all, literally it boils down to this. Yardley, what did you think of the movie? A, and B, what do you rate it?
You know what? Like I mentioned earlier, I went in with very low expectations. I was pleasantly surprised, just mainly because, I thought that the acting was pretty decent. I thought that with the budget that they had, I thought a lot of the practical effects worked, and the money that they did spend to kind of, zest those up, I thought it was well spent. I liked the direction. It was an above average horror movie for me. So I'd probably give it a 3.75, like right, almost a 4.
Okay. All right. Moni?
Same. It was above expectations, as Yardley said. I'm sorry, Yardley. I've been giggling.
Oh my God.
The Jack.
I am not one to talk. I'm right there with you. But
I am so on board with this show, by the way. So on board with it. This is the greatest ever. This is going to be hysterical. Y'all don't worry.
I had downstairs in the middle of recording because my family forgot how a door works and couldn't get through, couldn't come inside. It's like, this is why moms can't even go pee by themselves. Exactly. But anyway, yeah, I give it a 3.75. I really, though, the hype before this, I was really so excited to watch it, and that it didn't nearly meet up to the hype. And I've been noticing that since it initially hit, the ratings have been coming down. Mm-hmm. It didn't really scare me. And I could see maybe a deeply religious person or someone who's been through what I am spitting all over the microphone. Someone who's been through what Kristi has been through. Had a bad experience with a Ouija board. But for me, just taking the movie on its own was the scare factor was meh. It's like you knew when the jumps were going to come, so they don't. But I do like the characterization, as we mentioned. I do like the effects, and I do like the true story that it harkens back to. So anyway, 3.75 defies expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it a 4 because it did creep me out a lot based on realistic things that have happened, and then I really just liked the movie. I thought it was a good movie. Like, it's hard to find a horror movie that's just a good movie, and I just liked it. I don't necessarily feel like sometimes horror has to be all about jumps and scares. Sometimes you just need a good quality movie built with good characters, and my heart just ached for those kids, and Antonito just killed me. He was adorable, and I just wanted to scoop him up and take him out of there and bring him home. And for me, like, that's a sign of a good movie, and I just really thought that it was done so well. And it makes me sad that it was given so much hype that then people had to go in it with a different view versus just what the old-fashioned pull it up, not knowing what's going on, and looking at it from a fresh pair of eyes. So I give it a 4. I'll watch it again. I thought it was fantastic. And for the first time in my life, subtitles did not bother me. So it usually takes me a real just, oh God, I got to fucking watch subtitles. Jesus Christ. Like, I would put a book for that. Like, I don't want to watch a movie book. So I was pleasantly surprised, even though I worried that I would be going into something with, like, bad expectations. But anyway, I'm glad it was for this year, that's a pretty high grade. I think we're starting out the horror movie genre of this year kind of strongly. So I'll take it. Moni, speaking of Moni, next week it's your turn. What are we going to have for next week?
Speaking of things we don't want to have to read, but we're gonna. So I want to dive into the entire, we talked about the Cloverfield universe, and believe it or not, The Strangers has a little bit of a world around it, or at least I'm going to build one for us, going back to talking about some of the real life murders that The Strangers, both films, may have been inspired by. There's several infamous murders that both movies are inspired by. Hopefully we'll all get a chance to see the second one. I've heard mixed reviews about it. I'm definitely going to check it out. But I also would like us to watch, though, for sure, the movie Them, which is from Romania, actually. So it is subtitled. And there are some comparisons between The Strangers and the Them movie, just in terms of having killers come after you for no real reason. And that's kind of a scary premise in my mind, is just, why are these people after you? Just because they felt like it or because you were home. So I'm really excited to delve into that next week. And before we throw this whole podcast into the trash can and light it on fire, shall we go into where we can be found on social media?
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? Here's the deal. Sometimes shit seems like a big dumpster fire, and
you're gone. So
Motherfucker. Am I here now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes shit looks like dumpster fire, but then, you know what? It's just funny. All in good fun. I ain't gonna take us too seriously, and I know that you guys don't either. So I think it's great. I love it. Yardley, besides drinking Jack Daniels, where else can we find you?
At militant_marker on Twitter.
Sounds great. Moni?
At Moni Bear on Instagram.
Fantastic. Everything else is the Creepin' at Real Show or at Creepin_it on Twitter. We'd also like to ask you to follow us on Podbean or iTunes and give us a little clicky reviewy if you so inclined. And I would just like to extend a huge thanks to my co-hosts because I absolutely love having this commentary with them, even if we're all drunk at the same time. It seems to work. So as much as we don't think it works, it works. So I bid all of you a fantastic week, and we will be catching you on the flip side.
Bye.
Later.